Oh, if you didn't want to be stung, you shouldn't have poked the wasp's nest. So, there's a situation where I've had a few comments on my video about Addressing the UK, asking a question, and specifically to the anti-immigration crowd about how this looks to people. And so I decided to comment on this, trying to defend anti-immigration, and completely ignored every single point I made. I'll go for it. For the comments removed, they go our way. So, of the anti-immigration movement isn't even against immigration as a whole, but rather illegal immigration. No, it's not. You see the majority of this on just the internet in general, but TikTok, you see on a channel like Political Custard, but it's not about illegal immigration at all. It's about all migrants, and even people of colour. And you can also see this with the increase in racially motivated crime in the UK, as well as systematic. Because it's not good ourselves, it's literally happening through politicians, it's happening through even employers, but it's everywhere. So there's already a problem with this claim that it's just about illegal immigration. It doesn't exist. And they say there are people of multiple ethnicities in those anti-immigration movements as well. False. Because another ethnicity isn't necessarily someone who's like Asian, for example. I'm yet to see someone who is. Let alone someone who is actually like Indian or anything. Like, there's nothing there. So, the problem we have here is we can't really say that there are multiple ethnicities, but you can say that there are Scottish and Welsh people in that, and Irish even. So yeah, for some reason, even though they're technically not from the country, they're from their own, they're considered fucking like a different ethnicity, which is not really a good comparison, in all honesty. It's quite stupid. So I don't get that. In all honesty, it makes no sense. So let's address the next point. So who are you calling racist? See the anti-immigrants and basically people who vote reform and what was the other one? I can't remember, but there are definitely groups where they are strongly associated with racism, and it's strongly so. It's not even just like, oh yeah, there's a few. No, they literally are a lot of racist. Again, there's been an increase in racially motivated crimes, and that very much says that, okay, these people are problematic, they're disrupting the world, disrupting society. It is not good for anyone. So that's why it's even mentioned here. And that's the people who we're calling racist. So there is that to address, and unfortunately I don't think I'm going to get that addressed anyway, because of the nature of these types of people. So the next thing they say is the perspective of all far rights or racist is the sign of ignorance. Nope. They've always been racist. It's been inherently so just for years in general. Since I've known Conservatives anyway, I think. Although, technically we did allow like asylum seekers beforehand, I think. Was it 2016 to 2021 or something? I can't remember the last Conservative government. But yeah, we allowed immigrants in back then. There's even a fucking YouTube video from 2018 about how asylum seekers can get asylum in the UK. So it's very bizarre that we're in this situation to begin with, where suddenly the far right are not actually, what according to this user are not apparently racist. But there are people now, it's more relevant, especially with the anti-immigration stuff, who are openly racist. And it's not even like some hidden secret. It's literally in manifestos, it's in their talking points. So you see it with Farage, technically he's far right. It's everywhere. So you basically can't avoid it. But there are definitely some who aren't, obviously, like, I'd fucking Rishi Sunak, who, I gotta admit, I don't know enough about him, I can't say whether he's foreign or not, but that name doesn't sound English, let's be honest. So, yeah, like, there's some point here, but it's not a good point. Because currently, if that is the case where people are actually not racist, then suddenly you've been hijacked, unfortunately. So people are giving you a bad name just for the sake of this, really, for racism. Just for their own bias, their own agenda. Next thing I said is people are pissed off for a reason if you can't figure out why and differentiate between legal and illegal immigrants and just blatantly call them racist. Maybe it's you that's not understanding the situation. Again, I've explained this. I do understand there's a difference, but these seem to be rooted in racism. Just inherently so, and racism is discrimination of someone's ethnicity or colour. So it's hardly about the difference between them, because at its root, people can't differentiate that. I've seen this in TikTok, and it's also, again, an increase in racially motivated crime. It's everywhere. So it's not avoidable, and you also can't exempt yourself from this crowd. Being anti-immigrant itself is a problem, as I've said many times, because it's not actually the immigrants, it's the billionaires who employ the immigrants, by the way, and pay low income for the jobs that you didn't want, particularly UK people don't want anyway. But it's also pretty universal across the world, I think. And suddenly the blame is being passed off to immigrants, which to me just means that people are looking for an excuse. And that's why there is this association. People are thinking that it's inherently a racially motivated cause, and that's for a reason. See, because people think it's immigrants, and even though we know it's not the case, people still choose to believe it is immigrants. So I don't know why I'm being called the ignorant one when clearly this user doesn't understand that billionaires are the ones behind it. If you want to deal with the immigration crisis, vote someone who will wealth the fucking billionaires. Wealth and tax, I mean. Well, that's actually what far right are doing. That's what Reform will do. They want to put wealth in the pockets of billionaires. That's why it's dangerous. So yeah, I don't know why people are getting so defensive about this. Like, if it is about protecting women and children and giving people a stable income and a good economy, why are you voting someone that's going to support billionaires? It doesn't matter what you fucking care about immigrants at this point, because you should be caring about what these political leaders are saying. That's the most important thing here. Not immigrants, not even raising the fucking flags. The actual billionaires. John Billionaire, let's just make a joke out of it. So yeah, that's stupid. And then I've got a reply. Reply to my comment. For some reason this user is stalking my comments, I don't know why. Let me just double check, background check. Okay, strange anime memes for some reason. It's an Attack on Titan fan. Yeah, these are what the fuck. My Hero Academia, what the fuck? Like, these are all like woke progressive stuff. It's so fucking weird. And also, Fate, yeah, just Fate in general, I don't know. I think Gilgamesh has got Universal. Fuck me though. What the hell are you on? Like, you've literally been baited. How long have you been on it? 2020, okay, you're probably a kid. That's fucking worrying. I've been on YouTube since 2008 and I'm 28 years old now. So that's pretty much like 17 years of YouTube. My account is new because I didn't actually make one until much later. or proper channel actually, I should say. I did have an account, but I didn't like the name I had. So I made a new one, and that's what I've ended up here. And I keep changing names, as you can tell. Yeah, in the comment, anyway, the reply, I basically said there's an irony here. A lot of the time people who are anti-immigrant care a lot about the image they portray, but they are actively going against a good image for themselves with this, and for the entirety of the UK. Then when people learn that actions have consequences. And the reply from the user, it's the same case as with leftists. What do you mean by that? Because, like, many people on the left don't actually fucking care about their image. Like, I've pretty much seen the opposite in my years of just observing anyway. I'm not that into politics, and I can see that there's no image to be kept up. And at the same time, when we find out people doing weird shit, it's like, oh yeah, we condemn them. They may be a leftist, but we don't really stand with them. Stand by our own ideology, but that's it. There's definitely condemnable people, that's the same for everything, even reform. There's no doubt infighting there. That's why they just can't fucking do anything. I'm pretty sure there's like a news story every week about how they change MPs and stuff and argue, which is just insane, but that's obviously proof that they're unstable. And they're also like Trump bootlickers, let's be honest. You've already seen that with GB News and stuff, and they pretty much welcome Trump. The guy fucking sitting like right in front of where the car was going in, it's like, what did he do? Did he wave at them or did he do a Nazi salute? I can't remember what it was. It was like he's praising Trump in his fucking car. It's like, what the hell? It's just fucking gross. Like, you're glorifying a fucking paedophile. So it's not about protecting children. It's like going to the fucking contrary. You're welcoming a convicted sex trafficker criminal into the UK. So it makes no sense. Okay, I've got replies to the comment, it seems, and two. Let's see, because I refreshed it. Fucking video keeps running. So I don't know what this one was replying to. Of course, I'm biased. Okay, are you English? Because that's not the actual term. It's biased. And then they say, I think I'm not. Yeah, like, I'm not biased. I align more with the left, but that doesn't mean I am claiming to be left-leaning. I lean left because I've got the ideas, I want to see peace in the world, see non-violence, and that is also a left-leaning ideology. That's just I don't know what you call it, is an accidental thing. Like, yeah, I guess it's an accidental thing. I don't really like bias because it means that you're not open-minded to changing your opinion. And believe it or not, I used to be anti-immigrant myself. I used to be going on DeviantArt for some reason, writing articles saying, oh yeah, these people shouldn't be taking our jobs, they're a problem. And there was some sort of racism and Islamophobia as well, sort of with that. And also just anti-religious stuff in general. And it wasn't good, exactly. It's not good for anyone, let alone myself. So I was willing to sort of tarnish my image with that, believe it or not. But yeah, it's concerning that I'm being accused of being biased. I literally don't have a fucking bias. I've literally said things like this, like, you can convince me of anti-immigration by doing X thing. I've set the goalpost for this. And the way to prove it is to prove that there are actually crimes committed by immigrants on a percentage scale of their population that's higher than, say, the population of British people. Then yes, we have a problem. I would agree with that. But nobody has actually proven this to be the point, to be the case at this moment. So I do not side with anti-immigration as of this point. And as I said, I'm open to being proven that there is a point to anti-immigration. I'm just waiting to see it. So where is it exactly? Saying about the rest of the comment. What do you think you're advocating here and towards women? I'm advocating for non-violence, I'm advocating for taxing the wealth, and I'm advocating, I'm actually aiming this towards people who are voting reform and on the side of anti-immigration. So I'm not specifically targeting progressive people, and I actually do my sort of activism in a different way to progressive people. I don't address the common points that no doubt they've addressed plenty of times and done it well in most cases. I address the points that nobody else will, and also address them in an unbiased way as much as I can, and with the knowledge I have. Also, with noting I have learning difficulties, so it does take a while to learn some things. Sometimes it clicks, but other times it doesn't. And I also hate that my motherfucking image of people with special educational needs is being used to attack people like that. I didn't address the Antifa thing, but I don't give a shit really. We have Antifas in the other comment. We have Antifa and they portray the entire left side as violent and intolerable. Of course they would. That's a fucking bias. That's why I replied. It's literally a fucking bias. And bias isn't necessarily an undeniable truth, which this is being made out to be. Left-leaning people, to my knowledge, are the least violent people there, and it's also been shown, I think, in evidence, I could be wrong about this, that left-leaning people are generally less violent than everyone else, which means there's not actually violent or intolerance there. It's literally kindness and compassion. That's what we promote. And weirdly enough, that's really the only bias I have. You just say it outright. But is there something wrong with that? Is there something wrong with wanting peace and non-violence? Only to these people there might be, so that says a lot. As for intolerable, I don't know, you have to talk to them to understand why. Because, you know, if you're keeping a distance and you're making these claims, you're the intolerable. Well, that's just objectively so, and I've seen plenty of left-leaning people try to interact with people on the right, whether it's news or just a discussion or even a debate, and oftentimes it's the left-leaning people who are more well-spoken and have more points to say, whereas on the right I don't see much. And again, that's not bias, but I rarely see a point where people on the right are actually right, which is just kind of saddening, because there definitely could be some cases where that's true, but it's yet to be proven, so that's where we're at with that. So you can't really be anti-fascist and against left people. It's pretty much impossible. There's no world where that's a thing. So it's, I guess it's rough, really. Also, if you're stuck in that mindset as well, if you're constantly repeating it as well, you get stuck in that shit, and it's the same for left people, I'll say that as well. You know, if you repeat this crap in your mind and you don't actually take care of your health and take care of others even, you're going to be focusing on that a lot, and it will just destroy you from the inside out. It's just what it does. Because it is a dangerous mindset to have. It's called closed-mindedness. When you close in on that very thing, it ends up having a negative effect on your mental health and your beliefs. I've been in that situation myself as well. I've almost fallen into the pretty much alt-right pipeline. I started with channels like The Quartering and stuff, and I think It's a Gundam was one of them, could be wrong. But I got into those sort of channels, and it sort of made me realise, like, oh, they make some good points, and like, yeah, that's one of them, like I say. The point about men's rights, like, men shouldn't be sexually harassed by women, because that's wrong. 100% agree with that. But there are plenty of points that are bad. They made terrible statements on animal rights and veganism, made terrible points on women's rights. Definitely, I've seen a lot of that. It's very common. So yeah, Antifa is basically anti-fascist, but you're not actually anti-fascist if you're siding with fascism, which anti-immigration is a form of fascism, especially if it's not based on evidence. That's really the point here. What was the rest of the comment even say? What do you think of about that? Antifa in Portland and California with promotion of influencers like Hassan Abi. Man, are you living under a rock? What the fuck are you talking about? Well, I don't know much about American politics. I can only really claim to know the surface level stuff. So just what I've been presented in some influencers, I guess you call them. Unfortunately, they make terrible clickbait videos. It fucking annoys me. But yeah, I don't know what to think about this because I'm not knowledgeable on it. But is it right though? Like, that's the first question that comes to mind. Because if it's not even an Antifa point, like it is fascist to fucking riot in that sense. Like, you know, if you look at the Gen Z protests in Nepal, for example, they caused damage for sure, but they did that to overthrow a corrupt government. But they cleaned up afterwards, and they got a new government. So they took care of things in a decent way. But it's like, how are people who are anti-fascist doing this? Like, why are they rioting? That's what I want to know. Because there isn't a reason given for this, if there is even rioting to begin with. So I don't know. But it seems to be the opposite in this case from what I know of the Portland stuff. It's like Trump sent people to them, and it's now causing a lot of problems, or was planning to anyway. Not sure if that's still relevant. Basically, was trying to get a military in there and start shooting people. His own fucking country. Which shows you who the fascist is. So, yeah, no shit, people who are anti-fascists are going to fight back. If your life's on the line, what would you do? It's a simple question. What is this about Hassan Abi? Like, he's really fucking irrelevant to the conversation. It pops into his streams like before, like every now and then. It's like, okay, he seems kind of like a guy who he might understand what he's doing, but again, it's too sort of complicated for me. I don't even know. Like, he gets in 50, 55k viewers. But these are like people across the world. Like, I've seen New Zealanders watch him. I've seen UK people watch him. It's like, it's not just Portland people watching him. Like, what the fuck are you on about? Now, what about his YouTube channel if he has one? I'm pretty sure it does. I can't really alt tab at this point. But again, it's like, even with like 1 million subscribers or more, it doesn't really matter. Because he's going to have such a small influence in these spaces that it's almost irrelevant. So I don't even know why this is even a point. Like, it's ridiculous. So, I don't know what to think about this, but again, I don't know what's happening there. So the other comment is, man, am I living under a rock? Technically, yeah. Yeah, you got the moon, that's a rock. I don't know, this is the second one. Basically addressing something else, try and read it at some point. Okay, just pause now. And I've spoken a lot online and in person. I kind of doubt it. I think a lot of the people who claim this will not have, and I'll say myself, just being entirely honest, whilst I've not spoken to a lot of people who lean right, I do know people who have the ideas of the right, and it is similar. There is an eerie similarity, and they don't even necessarily align with said right. So there is this like technical guilt by association, which, yeah, naturally you feel free to censor about me with obviously left-leaning politics. Again, I don't align with political leanings because they're just useless. I favour the facts over all else, the evidence, not really necessarily the ideas, but just facts. I've even used a hypothetical in the past, and I myself am pansexual. I'm not going to hide that fact. Also autistic, learning difficulties, but I very much side on that side as a sort of bias in a way, but not entirely. But as a way to sort of get rid of that bias, I'd actually happily take on any sort of evidence that says like, oh, gay marriage is bad for children or something, or even relationships and working conditions. So I'd argue that, yeah, you can actually argue against that unbiased and have a good point, even let me side with you, as someone who's actually pansexual. But it also begs the question, like, what can you do better in that case? Like, do you treat these people as if they've got a medical condition because conversion therapy doesn't work? Do you just not allow these people into marriages? Do you just let them free roll? I don't even fucking know. So it's hard to answer what the solution is, even in hypothetical, where banning gay marriage is a good thing. So I do not know. So it's a hard question to answer because we don't have the evidence for it. We don't have the evidence for it because it doesn't exist. There's actually no correlation between harm towards children and gay marriage. So that's where I'm at with that. You can set in the goalpost here. That's the rest of the comments say. I was leaning left just a few years ago, but the intolerance and differing ideals and perspectives on what leftist and getting called racist and homophobic has led to the changes in me. Not that it would matter. You know what, same. But I was on the opposite side, as I literally said. For me, I've been through enough hardships to understand what I wouldn't want to happen to me, and what I wouldn't want to happen to anyone else as a result. And that's what's led me to, well, the progressive side of politics, and I call it progressive rather than left because it's actually about helping people, making them feel better in life. It's not hedonism at all. I've seen that accusation before. It's not at all. I don't really give a shit about how it benefits us. I just care about, well, in the greedy way, but I care about how it benefits us in the healthy way. Caring about the environment, climate change, caring about addressing things like crime even properly, because there is currently a lot of injustice in terms of addressing actual crime. Still needs equal punishment in that sense. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed. Yeah, and I've almost been on board with the far right thing, but I realised that came from a place of greed. And the greed being that, I kind of like have more bias towards women, for example, as a sexual interest. Okay, but the greed in me would say, like, oh, okay, I could kind of oppress them if I'm on the right. Like, oh shit, that's an exploit. That's sick in the head, obviously, as I discovered. And I wouldn't wish that on myself if I were a woman myself. So I never really aligned with it. And that's what dissuaded me from, again, going down the far right pipeline, or the alt right. And yeah, it's crazy. I also used to have sort of homophobic views. I used to think like, okay, it's a bit weird seeing men kiss, not really realising that I used to fantasise about like boys my age when I was in school in those ways. It's not uncommon, I don't think, but it's unusual, that's for sure. It's such a strange situation as well to be like that, and when the world has let you down as well, I can sort of really understand this point. I've had it many times. Technically, I still get it to this day, but I don't give up because at the end, I want to lead by example. That's a far stronger motivation than anything else. it literally doesn't matter how it affects me, it just matters how I affect people in the end. And that's a kind of stronger motivator, which is why I really don't understand the anti-immigration stuff. Because if you really care about people, if you care about causing the least amount of harm, why aren't you doing your research? Because there's plenty of ways to research this and find out what's actually happening, but nobody is doing that. Meanwhile, I've done the bare minimum of research. I've looked into videos, it's my sources, so I'll be honest about that. Of course, honesty is important as well. It's also okay to say that I don't know. That's something I realised a long time ago. But doing that is helpful. It alleviates a lot of frustration. I think you can become a better person that way, in all honesty. Yeah, I think I've addressed most of the points. There's also a lot of inceldom as well. That's the other thing I noticed. Like with Andrew Tate and stuff, obviously Trump. There's a lot of objectifying women and treating them as less than human. But it's fucking disgusting. And it's disgusting because you would never want that to happen to you yourself if you were born a woman. So, again, it's about empathy. And this is one of the big sort of end-alls to bigotry and hatred. Again, when it becomes about that, rather than actually caring about people, every point you make is pretty much invalid. Because it shows where you actually have your priorities, where you're actually leading. And it just means you're probably a dangerous person to be around as well. Like, you lose trust, and that leads to more loss of trust. I actually don't speak to a lot of people. I don't have many friends. I have family technically, but I don't really interact much. But again, that's where I hear some of these positions from. So it's not like I'm actively excluding myself and pulling the wool over my eyes like some people. I'm actually trying to keep myself open-minded and aware, and keeping myself on guard as well. As you never know. Something might happen, there might be an opportunity. I need to fight back. It really depends. What's the rest of the comments say? There's a change of perspective. What's the other thing? God, I can't read. I need to stop playing this game quick. So, getting called homophobic and racist in these groups, by the way, is a sign that you're wrong, because, again, looking at the evidence, there is countless evidence that obviously says that people are not necessarily born, but they develop their sort of attractions from a young age, and it goes into adulthood. And I didn't grow up around any of it. That's the weird thing as well. I only really found out when I was an adult, but it's different for everyone. And there are a lot of closeted people in the right-leaning groups who do this, and there's an interesting video about this somewhere, about why Grindr crashed in the Charlie Kirk memorial and stuff. And it's because a lot of closeted people essentially go into these places and basically go against the thing that they are, because that's the safest thing for them. It's like they can't come out, so they end up blaming themselves and blame others for it as a result. It's sad in a way, but it's also kind of understandable. I wouldn't do that myself, because again, I just wouldn't do that to myself. But some people seem to be willing to do that, and I'm not sure if it's because of a lack of education or a lack of teachings of morality or bad parenting. It really depends. Society has definitely shifted, but people need to shift as well if they want to shift society. So you can't hope for any sort of change in that sense until you address that point. Again, you're probably called homophobic for a reason. Homophobia is actually discrimination of people who are homosexual, and that's why. So I'm pretty sure people aren't saying that for no reason, and I would disagree with anyone who says it for no reason. And the same with like racists and stuff. Like nobody's racist if they discriminate someone for their crimes. But I wouldn't say it's racist. But if you make a point of skin colour, if you make a point of any sort of label that you could think of, and for some reason we don't say this for white people, which is where the distinction comes in, or the complete difference, it is essentially racist, because you're making that the motivation, essentially, making it the big sort of headline, and that does affect those people in the end, in dangerous ways. So of course it is racist. That's why. What's the other thing here? It was racist, yeah. But changing because of that is not good. I think, again, this is a closed-mindedness problem. And dishonesty as well, let's not forget that. Honesty is very important to having a reasonable discussion. So that's the other issue here. So, what's this? Last thing, but I've had more pleasant conversation, not conversations, just one, with so-called racist people, as you mentioned. You probably will. That's a pretty much a given. It's the same in any fucking group. Now you have it on the left-leaning side. Again, this is also anecdotal, it's not evidence. And while we can't speak on evidence for either of our sides, I think it's definitely a case where you will encounter those sorts of people. Again, if you're specifically seeking those people. And what's weird is it's just contradicted yourself. Like, you've made the point that you're not racist and that these people are racist. But then you're saying that they're racist, or so-called racist even. You're kind of implying that they are. Like, what gives you? Why are you even having this conversation to begin with me of all people? You've already just defeated yourself. And again, there's no point here to these conversations that you're having with said racists. Because again, you'll find this in any group. You know, I've had bad experiences myself in plenty of my own groups, but that is universal. That's for every single fucking group that's ever existed. There's probably a lot of that back in, like, the civil rights movements. So, yeah, I just find these points really stupid every single time. Just say it for what it is. It's a lack of critical thinking and a lack of open-mindedness. You know, when there are good things to say, and things that I agree with, I will say what they are. I'll even say why, because I've understood them. But I've not really seen that here. And yeah, like the only thing I think I addressed here that was of interest is the changing sides thing, which itself is important, yeah. But anyway, I've gone on long enough, fucking hell, 38 minutes. Yeah, that's weird, but I'll upload it anyway. I feel it's important. Hopefully that was interesting, and again, I don't mean any sort of fucking shade with this, but it's important to address these points as people, because I do feel like there's a lot of dehumanising in both sides of the coin here. And it's dangerous because it does mean that you're more susceptible to harming them. And that's why you can see like crimes and stuff like by specific people. Unfortunately, it's not always related. But it's really important to address these things and even the uncomfortable stuff. But yeah, I'm interested to know what people have to say about this. If there is anything else to say. But yeah, thanks for listening, and also feel free to comment if you have anything. So, see everyone another time.